I'm so privileged to have Miss Gagandeep Bhullar, founder of SuperHumanRace. So could you please introduce yourself and tell us about SuperHumanRace?
So the SuperHumanRace is actually a category creating tech company. When I say category creating, we actually say it with a lot of humility. But when we realized that there was a huge space of doing good which was completely unexplored by tech and how businesses could become more powerful by doing good, we thought that this was an area that we wanted to enter. And subsequently, when we built the product, we realized that the interlinkages made sense for everyone. It made sense for the people who were trying to do good as individuals. It made sense for companies that were investing in good, whether it was employee engagement by engaging with communities as you build your employee ecosystems to collaborate better or to drive greater impact. And also for non-profits, which were implementing agencies and their lack of exposure to tech. And as a result of that, the inconsistency in data accountability, as well as data sanctity as it rolled up to the companies first and then to the districts, the governments that were reviewing that information. So I think that was kind of what led us to form the SuperHumanRace. And we are fortunate in the fact that, it became not only a concept creating company, but also a category creating company because the end user validated the fact that doing good is good business.
So please tell us about your journey into making SuperHumanRace and what inspired you to do so.
I think as women, and I'm saying this because not only because you run a successful non-profit, which is about women telling stories of impact, but also generally based on the world that we live in, I think as women, we tend to think more creatively than men are able to typically. And again, I say this not just based on my personal experience. I've mentored with a lot of women. And I feel that the leadership that women bring to the fore is very unique. It's unique in the sense that it's soft and at the same time it's outcome and impact driven. So they're constantly trying to think about not just the business outcome, but how does it impact the milieu that we are in. And I think when you take that thought process and you put it against the context of the world that we live in. So right now we are on the brink of a sustainability revolution. And this is real because sustainability is the most pervasive word in our lives today. Everywhere you go, whether you're reading a newspaper article, whether you're on social media, whether you work in a company or you're in a school, people are talking about the ill effects of plastic, for example, or climate change, or water scarcity, or air pollution. So it's a reality of our times, and I think that nobody is better equipped than women to drive technology as well as thought process as we enter into this space of volatility and also lack of clarity in so many ways. There are no templates for solving the sustainability issue. This issue was not even an issue 200 years ago. Our world has changed enough that something that could never have been an issue, the survival of the planet itself, is suddenly an issue for us. So women are better equipped than most leaders generally to solve this problem, and I think that's what inspired me to kind of take the foray into bringing my strength in technology to solving a problem which is at so many intersections. It's at the intersection of environmental needs, at the intersection of technological evolution, and also where democracy is headed. So how does water scarcity or being water stressed, how does that impact our future as a democracy or as a city?
So I'm sure you must have faced many challenges during the making of SuperHumanRace. But was there any one particular major challenge that you fought, and what was that challenge and how did you overcome it?
That's a very good question. I think we don't think about the challenges we faced after we've overcome them. I think the biggest challenge that I faced was that I was with one of the best companies in the world, in my estimation. I used to work for the Boeing company. It was a phenomenal employer at so many different levels. And leaving Boeing, even to me, at the time, I wondered if I would regret the decision. And some of these decisions, even if they're not irreversible, they might seem unsurmountable. Because as a woman, the moment you quit your job, the first question that you get from people, whether you're in India or any other part of the world, is, what's the reason that you did it? Are you expecting, or, is it something in your personal situation? I was also asked whether my husband asked me to quit my job, which was unimaginable for me because my husband is very supportive. But, it's part of our lives is just perception of others of what it is, right? So that was, I think, the biggest challenge that I felt, that as I was getting into it, we had an idea that had not been explored. And I was quitting my job, so I was going to be entering the startup space, which is not as structured as the corporate workspace. And as a result of that, people sometimes do not view it as real work because it takes a very long time. So there's a large gestation period in startups for outcomes to be delivered versus in corporate jobs. Because the day I start a corporate job, at the end of my first month, my paycheck is in my hands. And that is an outcome for society, right? That so long as you're getting your paycheck, you're actually doing what you say you're doing. But in startups, it doesn't work like that. It takes time to build products, it takes time to win clients, and then it takes time to actually have your startup garner attention where it becomes a real deal. And I think that period of uncertainty, it's tough for every startup founder, but I think especially for women, and especially for women that have successful husbands and are financially comfortable, I think it's an even bigger challenge, because people think that, oh, she's just dressing up and going to a coffee shop to have fun for the rest of her day. They don't realize that we work 18 hours a day and we really hustle. So that's, I think, the biggest challenge that I faced at the time.
Is there any advice that you would like to give personally to the young entrepreneurs who may be watching this video?
So, I like to believe that I'm young. So any advice that I give should be taken with a pinch of salt. But I think based on my experience, I can offer that entrepreneur or not, anybody who's watching this video needs to remember that the world that we're in is changing and shifting constantly. If you do not adapt, the rate of survival that is ordained by God is not going to be your rate of survival in industry, in business, or even in education, right? Education is evolving constantly. And to take an example, I can talk about business because I've been in business all my life. Schneider Electric, for example, I learned about this just a few days ago at an event where I was hearing someone speak. They told me that the company is 180 years old. It started as a foundry, and it is one of the leaders in digital transformation for energy today. Similarly, the Boeing company, which is more than 100 years old, today has evolved constantly. So they were delivering mail at one point in time, and today the 787, with all the transformation that has happened to materials and technology, which makes it more sustainable and efficient, has actually also opened 400 new routes. So I think it's extremely important to adapt. It's important to watch your landscape, because as you watch your landscape, in every challenge that we experience as a society, there is an opportunity for innovation.
What is your key to success, and how to deal with every obstacle, every challenge that you face, anything that comes your way?
So there are two things that I believe in. The first is a quote that I basically created for myself when I was younger, because I think when we're young, we're very passionate and aggressive. But I have managed to find longevity in the quote. So 10 years after I came up with it, it's still around in my head. And that is, fight with passion, accept with grace. It's very important to pick the battles that you fight, whether it is, and this is not necessarily like fight, but what am I going to invest my time in? What am I going to do with my time? And when you realize that there is something that does not lead to outcomes that you would expect of your time. So as a very good example of this, we can look at the parking situation in most cities. So nearly anywhere you go, whether it's work or home or a market, you could spend 5 hours fighting about parking every day. But the moment you make the decision that I'm going to accept the reality that parking is not going to be fixed by my fighting with other people, and you decide to save those 5 hours and employ them constructively, you're suddenly on to using your time more efficiently in so many ways. So fight with passion. And the second thing that I think has helped me through all of these years and has stayed with me, again, it's kind of interesting. I like to call it the sustainability mindset. It's important to have fun. So the two filters that I put on anything that I do is, one, am I having fun? And the second is, how does it make me feel? So I could be having a lot of fun shopping, but is shopping sustainable? If it makes me feel guilty at the end of a shopping trip, then should I be shopping less, or should I be shopping for things that are more sustainable, right? That sort of thing. So those are two filters that I kind of always put on my time. So time is a great equalizer, right? It democratizes everything. You, I, everybody in this space has the same amount of time. It's what we do. So I think that's kind of the thing that I kind of keep in mind all the time. Every piece of wisdom or foolishness that I come up with is relative to time. So use your time with it.
And finally, what is your message to our wonderful Her Success Bits community signed up to the website and who are watching the videos and getting inspired and motivated to do more with their lives?
So I think Her Success Bits is a great idea. I've mentioned this to Anya previously. She's only 15, you may not know this, but she's only 15 and I've only met her today, but we've been exchanging notes for a while. I think that anyone who's on this platform is fortunate because anyone who has access to resources that help them to think beyond themselves, learn from other people, is fortunate in today's day and time. And I think Anya is doing a really good job of curating the website for content that makes sense. So not just inspiring content, but also content from a variety of diverse voices that contextualizes success in our world, right? So success beyond motherhood and success beyond being successful in our community. So kind of also bringing the business angle for women. So I think that's great. And then another thing is that I was telling Anya that there's great value to women mentoring women, and I think Her Success Bits is actually a great way to do it digitally. If you know what outcome you're trying to achieve, and you're able to find resources on a platform like Her Success Bits for that, I think that will make your success more likely. Thank you.
It was wonderful conducting the interview, and I am so honored that I got to be inspired by you. A part of the job is I see so many amazing women, and they have so inspiring stories. So thank you so much, and thanks for the interview.
Thank you, Anya. You're awesome. I'm so glad we got to do it.